Let me start off by saying that, a couple of years ago, an American author told a lie, published a book entitled, "You Are Okay, I'm Okay." The truth of the matter is that I'm not okay, you're not okay, but
We're
that's
not
okay, because, God will make it okay. The reality of the society that we live in, very sadly, is that there's a lot of brokenness in society today. And there are huge challenges that we face. We had a meeting this morning with the MEC of Education in Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi, and he gave feedback on one of his major targets for the first 100 days in office. And one of the key things that as a department in Gauteng, his focus is on eliminating gangsterism in schools. Now, some of the feedback that we get is actually very disturbing, that you find the amount of hooliganism, bullying, and sexual violence in schools, and the names that some of the names that these kids use, some of the gangs that these kids use, are similar to the names that are used by present gangs. So it's actually quite disturbing. And the challenge is quite huge.
Yes, Lesley, you've just seen pictures there of some horrific violence in classrooms, bullying, etc. And these problems do manifest at school level, but it's got to be coming from somewhere. How do we rope in families and communities?
I think that's the most important thing. It starts with the family. And from the family, it starts with the community. There used to be, and it sounds cliche to say it, when some of us grew up, we grew up on the understanding that it takes a village to raise an African child.
Of course.
And somehow, as South Africans, we have drifted from the core of who we are. We do not know, we have kind of lost the sense of identity, of things that make us who we are as South Africans. There used to be a time when, not that I condone the form of violence, because it is not good to impose any form of violence, particularly around children, because then you're not passing on the correct values. But some of us knew that if you messed up in school, you will pay for it. And somehow we were knocked into shape. And I'm not necessarily saying it was the best of things, but I think there's a sense of discipline that no longer exists in society. We need to go back to the basis of, number one of the things that made this miracle in 1994 is what is called Ubuntu, our ability to care for each other, for our ability to be a caring nation. And it's quite unfortunate that 20 years into our democracy, we've become a very selfish nation. We're no longer caring. We're not as caring as we ought to be. And the issues around the role of community, particularly elders in the community, one of the most scary things is that old people no longer feel safe in their own homes, because there's a risk that they will be raped by some young people who are looking for money or looking for television sets that they can sell so they can go and buy nyaupe.
Your campaign, Lesley, also aims to educate young people about their rights and responsibilities. How do you go about this? Because it is crucial. We want a nation of young people who have a strong sense of social justice and personal responsibility, so we can inculcate a very active citizenry.
Absolutely. One of the organizations that we work with is Leaders Say. And Leaders Say, at the core of it, is about active citizenship. And Leaders Say has come up with what they call a Bill of Responsibilities. And I think South Africans need to understand that in as much as you have these rights, please understand that with all those rights, they carry with them corresponding responsibilities. You cannot just demand your rights without understanding and appreciating that with those rights come certain responsibilities. So what we do when we go on these roadshows is, number one, we are about national pride. That's what Proudly South African is about. It's about national pride. It's about patriotism. We believe that South Africans need to love their country, that South Africans need to show loyalty to South Africa and make sure that South Africa succeeds. And so we impart some of these core values, and we make the schools and the learners to sign a pledge. And that pledge is to say, we pledge our allegiance to South Africa. We pledge allegiance to the South African flag. Because ultimately, this South African flag symbolizes our history as a nation And it's a unifying force of where we come. So people understand the importance of singing the national anthem.
Yes, it's interesting to note, Lesley, that just a generation ago, we had a well-coordinated, strong youth-led protest that brought down a very vicious system. And it's important for us now to spark that passion again and get our youth engaged in pertinent issues of the day.
It's important. I mean, one of the statistics, if you look at the reports from the Statistics General and other surveys, we have a young population, and if we miss the point, if we don't build a very strong foundational base for our young people, I'm afraid for the future of this country, because at the current rate at which we are going, sadly, I begin to ask myself a question as a father, as a parent, as somebody. Well, I'm relatively young. I'm concerned about the future of this country insofar as young people are concerned. And I think the question that we need to ask ourselves as this generation is, what are we handing over to our children? When we hand over the baton, what type of a country are we handing over to our children? I think if we don't drive those core values of who we are as South Africans, I think we're going to lose it.
Thank you, Lesley Sedibe, the CEO of Proudly South Africa on the PM News Desk. Thank you for your